Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I am thrilled about this segment because this is really just an incredible volume. It is The Bronx Nobody Knows, a walking guide to our home borough, the Bronx. And the author has passed away. And I'm sorry to say that that's the case. But his wife, Helaine Helmreich, is with us. Helaine, first of all, condolences on your husband's passing.
Thank
Um,
you very
but
much.
but congratulations on you picking up the ball and getting us this book. Tell us a little bit about William and what got him to the point where we have this book and, frankly, books like it of other boroughs.
Well, it started when he was a child. He grew up in Manhattan, and between the ages of 9 and 14, on Sundays, his father would take him on the subway and they would ride to the last stop of whichever subway line they were on. They would ride to the last stop, get off the train, and take a walk around the neighborhood for several hours. He always said, like, his father gave him the greatest gift that a father can give, which is the gift of time. He would spend that time with him. And that way, taking all the different train lines to the last stop, he learned about all different neighborhoods in New York City. And he learned to really love and appreciate the city. When they finished with one train line, they would start with the
Amazing.
the next to the last
So
stop.
he basically, as a child, was developing what became this incredible volume. Of course, we're prejudiced. We care about the Bronx, and then so just cutting to the chase, he was a college professor,
Yes.
and then you told me this, and I just can't believe it. He literally walked every street in New York City.
Yes, he did, and he did it twice, except
That's
he did
incredible.
not finish. The second walking of Staten Island was unfortunately not finished because he
Right.
became ill and it was COVID and
But you told me the the amount of you can't I can't even imagine walking all the streets of my own neighborhood in the Bronx. But he walked more than 6,000 miles.
yes, he did. It would be the equivalent of walking from New York City to St. Louis, Missouri, then New York City to Los Angeles, California, and
Wow.
then back to New York City and then to St. Louis, Missouri.
That's right, 6,000 miles, of course.
Yeah.
That's just absolutely incredible. So he loved the city. You went with him through some of the walking in the Bronx.
Right, I did. Before that, it was hard for me. I tried to walk with him as much as I could, but I was also working. Later, when I retired, I had more free time, and so I did walk with him in the Bronx a good deal of the time.
It's just incredible. What strikes me about this volume, and I didn't read all the chapters, but I will tell you, and I'm just going to read to the people in the Bronx here. Hold on. I mean, I'm going to list them: Mott Haven, Melrose, Concourse, Hunts Point, Crotona Park, East, Morrisania, Tremont. I mean, it just goes all the way down. Fordham, Bedford Park, Norwood, Kingsbridge, Woodlawn, Wakefield, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is our hometown, but the detail in each chapter about each neighborhood is priceless, frankly. Tell me about what it was like. Let's be prejudiced and talk about the Bronx, but tell me what it was like to walk through some of the Bronx neighborhoods for you.
Well, I wasn't very familiar with the Bronx. I didn't grow up in the Bronx. I grew up in Brooklyn, actually, and
We forgive you.
the the Bronx was a place we went to go to the Bronx Zoo, but other than that, I didn't have any family there and I had no reason to go there. And so it was fascinating to me to walk with him through the Bronx and to see the amazing variety. It's just a fascinating neighborhood. First of all, it has tremendous history. I think it has more of the old buildings than many other parts of the city do. And you see these interesting buildings with all kinds of architectural elements like quoins and keystones and all kinds of scallops, terracotta work and these
Mhm.
beautiful Art Deco buildings on the Grand Concourse and there are beautiful, beautiful parks in the Bronx. Pelham Bay Park is the largest park in New York City, three
Van
times.
Cortlandt Park is the third largest. I'm
Yeah,
prejudiced there
and
too.
beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We walked in it. It's a beautiful park, And there are many beautiful community gardens that give a lot of joy to the local residents who spend a lot of time working in those gardens. And I just uh, the and what always whenever I walked with him, it was just amazing to me because he would not only describe buildings or stores or interesting architectural things that we would see, but he would engage people in conversations. There are hundreds of anecdotes and conversations in the
Yes.
book, and they really breathe life into the book.
So,
They give energy and life to the book, and he was able to engage people from all walks of life and have them tell him about their neighborhood, about their lives, and that was always amazing to me how he had the gift to do that.
and you put that in the forward of the book. Um, how much walking did you do per day? Listen, the notion of walking, for example, the Grand Concourse from Marshall Parkway all the way down to the 138th Street, that would I don't know. You can do that in one day. How much walking did you do? And I'm
It
assuming it
depended
helped your fitness somewhat.
It depended on the day, it depended on the neighborhood, it
The
depended
weather,
on how much there was to see, how many people we spoke to. Sometimes we would walk, 3 or 4 miles. Sometimes we walked as many as 6 or 7 miles. It really depended. I mean, the Bronx is about 800 something miles that we walked, the borough
wow.
itself. So as I said, it really depended on the day, but it wasn't unusual for us to walk 5 miles in one day.
Well, that is just unbelievable. Are there any anecdotes in your mind that stand out in terms of the conversations with people that made you go, "Wow, what a great story! Thank you, William, for doing that because it's going to really enhance the book."
It's he spoke to so many people, and there were many interesting conversations. I was very interested to learn about. There was a store that we saw called the Botanica. I don't remember which neighborhood it was in. Um, I had never seen anything like this. It was for people who practice a religion called Santeria.
Right?
And Bill interviewed the proprietor of the store, good-looking young man who was heavily tattooed and pierced, and he described to us all the functions of the different statues and oils and potions and things that he had in the store, and how some of them can help you, prosper or help you have good health. Some of them can do bad things to your enemies. Some of them can enhance your love life. And he had turtles in a tank, like in a bucket of water, live turtles swimming around. And he said that turtles give off positive energy. That's why he had the turtles there. And he just, he told us about the origins of the religion, which I think it's a combination of Caribbean and African
Right?
beliefs, Catholicism, a kind of a mixture of all, an amalgam of all of those.
You know what you just described is what I know because, of course, I've been doing this here in the Bronx for a long time, and I've lived in the Bronx my whole life. Is a lot of what the Bronx is about. It's people and their cultures finding ways to share their cultures, finding ways to express their cultures. And so the fact that when I asked you pick out one, you pick that out. That to me is the core of the Bronx. It's about history. It's about ethnicity. It's about religion. It's about faith. It's about family. There's a folk nature to of the borough of the Bronx. Um, Now, what is the status of the other? Let's see, the guide to walking around Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. You said Staten Island is not finished. We'll put that
Yeah,
aside.
all of the other books have been published by
Have they
Princeton.
been done?
Yeah, they've
Wow.
all been published by Princeton University Press, and they're all part of this series. There's the Brooklyn Nobody Knows, the Manhattan Nobody Knows, the Queens Nobody Knows, the Bronx Nobody Knows. And the original book was the New York Nobody Knows, when he walked all five boroughs for that first book. And then they asked him to do each borough separately.
Listen, I got to ask you this because I know if I suggest now, my wife likes to walk, and we do walk together a lot. If I said I'm going to walk every street in the Bronx or every street in New York City, she would have said, Well, that's nice, but are you out of your mind? What was your reaction? Now, I realize it was part of his past, it was part of how he grew up, but what was your reaction when he said, "Honey, I'm a college professor, but I'm going out there and I'm gonna take a map and we're gonna get" and by the way, one of the treats of the book, I should say, is, alright, so here's the Wakefield map. Each one has a street map,
Right.
to go along with it. But what was your reaction when you said,
I
"Are you
actually
are
felt
you out of your mind?"
someone else said that to him. They said, "Only you would be crazy enough to do this." But but my reaction was that if anybody could do this, he could do it because it combined a lot of the skills that he had. He was a sociologist, he was an ethnographer, he was a charming person who could talk to anyone, and he was a great walker. He loved to walk anyway and had, had often walked very long distances and then would call me and ask me to come pick him up from where he had ended
From
up.
wherever he was. But,
Yeah. And
that
half the time I couldn't find him.
and so, now this volume, about, the Bronx Nobody Knows was, unfinished, and you, basically, you said you did some of the acknowledgments and
Yeah,
kinda wrapped it up.
it was mostly finished. It was pretty much finished, but there were just finishing touches, like the acknowledgments where he had left a list of people, but I knew it was incomplete. And I had to, acknowledge others that I knew had helped, like the people at the publishing company. And I had to apologize to those who were not acknowledged, even though they should have been, because I did not know,
Did not know that what their part of it, yeah,
who
was.
they were or what they had done.
Uh, so now, having done that, and I know there's a tremendous emotion, for you, um, having finished it, having completed it, and here it is, The Bronx Nobody Knows. How do you feel? You feel relieved? You feel great? I'm sure there's some sadness there, but you feel like, you finished the job. Although, of course, the Staten Island thing is another
Yeah,
whole
that
story.
it's bittersweet because he wasn't there to even the Queen's book. The Queen's book had been completely finished when he passed away, but it wasn't out yet. So he
Right.
didn't live to see the book itself in print. And he didn't live to see the Bronx book in print. And that it's heartbreaking to me.
Yes.
And I had, because he had passed away, I had to read the book over again when they were copy editing it or when they were doing they did a sensitivity reading where they made sure things were politically correct and,
Right.
that wouldn't offend anyone. There are different ways of addressing people today that were not
That
maybe.
you didn't use then. Listen, we're gonna run out of time. Helaine Helmreich, congratulations on your part in the book. Congratulations to William, in perpetuity about, just he did great work for us in the Bronx, and for people who, want to visit the Bronx. So, check it out, ladies and gentlemen. The Bronx Nobody Knows. It's available wherever books are sold. You know where you're going to get your books. And, Helene, thank you so much for bringing it to us, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Great.
Have a great day.
We got to run. Thank you to Helene, and, you know what happens. We'll see you next week. Good night.